Thanks so much for joining me to paint Wisteria in a loose contemporary style in watercolour. It has a natural S shape and I'm going to use that in my design as I paint quite loosely. If possible, have a piece of Wisteria in front of you. It's really quite lovely if you can paint from a fresh flower. The colours that I've used I'll go through in detail at the end of the video and talk a little bit about the colour theory behind that. As the Wisteria moves towards the end of it, the buds are barely open, and so they get smaller and smaller as they go to right down to the tip there, little tiny bud down there. With that beautiful colour, I'm going to run the brush down the centre. Up there is all the beautiful greenery, and I'm not going to do that in the green it's in. I want to use this beautiful dark colour. So a little bit of background colour now, mixing up a different purple. I might add some of that beautiful grey to it. And I just want to bring out a little bit of interest, perhaps here or perhaps here, a little bit of negative painting. Just grabbing water and softening that off. That way I'm just adding a tiny bit of colour to the background. I like that. It's just added a softness to it. And then I'll continue around the painting, adding that tiny bit of tone. Release that one. That's lovely. Just needed a little tiny something, and that's solved that problem. I'm going to go along here and encourage those colours to tip into my wet background. Okay, a little bit of tipping, a little bit of gravity, and I want it, I'm just lifting up the board on a big angle, and I might come in with some of this magenta with a little more neutralize it as well. Goes to aubergine then. A little bit of negative painting up there as well. So just water, just encouraging it to move around. Just needed something in this area here, so that's why I'm adding little bits of detail. And then, while I'm here, putting the board back flat again, I'll just put a little bit of texture there. It's not coming off, so I'm resorting to the drumstick method. That's better. Okay, I think I'll give it a little bit of gravity again, and I'll leave it on an angle while I dry this layer. So I've got some lemon yellow over here. I'm going to add a little water to it. Just put it straight onto the page. So if you've made it this far in the video, you're interested in what colours I used, and maybe you're interested in a little bit of colour theory too. So here are the colours that I've used, a range of brands. I'm using Daniel Smith Lunar Earth because it granulates and I wanted an earthy colour to make my greens. I'm using Holbein's Cobalt Blue because I've got this enormous tube of Cobalt Blue and I love Cobalt Blue. I'm using Art Spectrum French Ultramarine because I like the depth that that darker blue brings, and I'm using quinacridone magenta, so it's a very limited palette. I'm now going to place the colours on the colour wheel so that we can have a brief look at what kind of colour theory I'm creating. Quinacridone magenta sits over here. It's smack in the middle between the cool colours and the warm colours. I've got two blues and they're very closely related on the colour wheel, Cobalt Blue and French Ultramarine. And then I've got Lunar Earth, which is an earthy colour, so all of the earthy colours sit inside the colour wheel. And when I say colour wheel, I'm talking about the Quiller method of thinking about colour. I've got a couple of videos on his stuff. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so if those colours go down and they're making beautiful purples, I've got blue to magenta and then a little bit of brown. So it makes me think about how when I'm painting, perhaps I'll lean towards the blue side if I want it to look really cool, or I can lean towards the Lunar Earth side if I want to make the painting have a much warmer feel to it. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of the video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And share, like, stuff like that. That really helps me out. Thanks, guys. See you next time.